And we're back. We're not live, but we're back on another exciting episode of Star Trek. No, Starfleet Boy. Talking about Star Trek casually and informally. And today we're focused on Star Trek Discovery. We're a little bit behind, so we're recording this episode a week later for Light and Shadow, episode 7. And I'm so grateful and excited to be joined by the Starfleet Boy Summit, or quorum. And there's not 12 of us, so I don't know about that. But anyways, welcome back, PJ, Fathery, and Sean. Thank you for joining.
Hello.
Thank you for having us.
Exactly. Thank you for having us.
Awesome. I've already talked about this, and I've tuned into some of the discussion, so I'm going to try my best not to overlap, but I think that there are some topics that deserve a little bit more conversation. But before we go into those questions and topics, would any of you guys like to give a brief summary of the episode, or shall I go ahead and do it?
I volunteer to give the summary for the next episode.
Okay.
When we get to that.
All right, deal. All right, fine.
When someone else does this one, then I can do the next one.
PJ and Sean, do you decline?
No, go ahead, Father.
Go ahead, everyone.
Okay.
Everyone
well,
else.
He wants to do the next one, so I'm going to do this one. So he's going to do if memory serves. So Light and Shadow summary. Basically, we're still trying. It's post Kaminar.
Sorry.
Now we know your secret.
Oh, that's funny.
So post Kaminar, we have Burnham resolute to find, and she thinks she knows where he might be based on her gut intuition, and so she goes off to see if her gut is correct and heads home to Vulcan. On the Discovery, there's a remnant from the Red Angel episode or incident, which is like a time rift basically, and so the Discovery is examining this time rift, and a whole bunch of stuff happens, including Ash and Pike comparing the sizes of their piloting prowess. And we go into this crazy situation where Pike and Tyler are stuck in the anomaly, and the Discovery crew has to try to meet Vulcan. Burnham is correct. She finds Spock, and his mind is in a shambles. He's totally batshit crazy, and he's trying to kind of center himself unsuccessfully. So, originally Amanda is trying to hide him from the powers that be, but Sarek intervenes and kind of lays down the law, much like what's his name in Lord of the Rings, who Elrond of Rivendell. He's like, no, I am the father. I decide what happens. So he sends Spock with Burnham to Section 31, and decides that that's the best course of action, and tells Burnham that her career will in fact be in jeopardy again, which we'll talk more about in the next episode. And so when she gets to the Section 31 ship, everything, although it seems Section 31 in general seems very dark and scary, she's kind of on board with the plan because she thinks it'll right Spock's mind, just to extract these memories and use this kind of technology to do so. But then in an interesting turn of events, Empress Giorgio, Emperor Giorgio informs Burnham that the device will actually cripple Spock's mind even further, but Section 31 is just after the memories of the future. So they stage a fight, and Burnham and Spock escape. Burnham comes to the realization a little earlier that the coordinates, or the numbers that Spock has been writing, is an inverse of what it actually should be. So she plugs the coordinates into the computer. We discover that the coordinates lead to Talos 4. Woo! And that's it. The episode ends. Oh yeah, wait, sorry. They save Tyler and Pike from the anomaly, and no one really talks about the implications of the time rift or the time tsunami on Kaminar, so I'm assuming nothing happens. But but that's it. So yeah, did I do it? Did I get everything?
Yeah, you hit all the broad strokes.
Thank you.
There was also like a squid from the Matrix that showed up.
Oh yes, I forgot about the squid. Thank you. So the probe that they launched to examine the time rift goes into the future and comes back from the future as a crazy, scary Matrix squid. That's correct.
Tampered with by Dr. Octopus of the Spider-Man universe.
Wow.
Star Trek Discovery into the Spider-Verse.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. So if you guys can put your minds back a week ago into when you first saw this episode, obviously there's a lot more revealed in this week's episode, if memory serves. But if you go back to this, what were kind of like the biggest questions, I guess, that you have that we could talk about during our discussion today? That you still haven't answered from your discussion.
Positive things or bad things, or just generally speaking?
Anything. We can go to the nit.
I'll open up.
We can start with the nitpick corner.
I'll open up with my beef with Saru, and the fact that he seems completely back to normal, and I'm puzzled about that. They did this whole very emotional and important arc about how he kind of went nuts because he lost his ganglia. And we've seen it previously in season 1 that when he loses his fear, he's just kind of insane. But in this episode, in episode 7, he seems fine, very well adjusted, completely normal. I don't know.
I didn't take it that way. Still struggling with it, but that he was doing a good job of composing himself. I also thought that he was a lot more confident. I do notice a change in Saru, especially in the next episode too. It's kind of addressed more directly, but I mean, we don't want him going batshit crazy.
I think they could have used.
I don't think he would.
I think they could have had just one line in there of Captain Pike or someone saying, "Saru, are you sure you're okay? Or are you sure that you're going to be able to serve? You're feeling okay? Because you just went through some shit. I'm not sure if you're back to your old self." Just like one little line of dialogue like that.
It would have helped. Or maybe just at some point, maybe he freaks out just a little and someone say, "Are you fine? Are you okay?" And he's like, "Yep, I'm good. I'm all right."
Well, yeah.
Something small.
I mean, well, does it count when he's like, "What the fuck is that?" when he sees the octopus probe?
No, because that's a natural reaction, isn't it?
But I did like Saru taking command because he's always great when he's in command of the ship. When he tells them, "We're going from a research mission to a rescue mission."
He just naturally feels like the captain.
Sean is rolling his eyes at that, though.
Yeah, okay, I do agree. He does naturally feel like the captain. I feel like Discovery will eventually displace him as the captain, and that's kind of what all his story is going to be about. But I'm not a fan of the we have gone from research to rescue. I don't know. It's just instead of talking about that, just do it. Just say, look, give the orders. Lock onto this ship, do this, do that, whatever.
I forgive Saru his one-liners. He's trying to he's probably inspired by Pike. Pike gives these awesome one-liners, right? So he's like, well, what can I say that'll be similar?
I'll tell you what, Enterprise, as it came out in the year 2000s, and it has these specific year 2000s flaws. They have a season finale where Archer's running in slow motion in front of an explosion. It's corny as hell.
Yeah, that's season 3. I remember watching that in 2004.
It's got that cringe.
Yeah, no, I cringed at the time, when it happened.
Okay, so every series, in a way, has its flaws of the time, and I feel like Discovery has its own flaws of this time, and so I don't know. It's just it resembles a lot of other shows in that sense. These one-liners feel the Flash to me, but whatever.
The Flash.
Yeah, that's going to be the millennial.
We are Starfleet. We are the Flash.
We'll look back at Discovery as the millennial Star Trek.
But it is the millennial Star Trek, isn't it?
Remember when they had hipster Spock with a beard?
And everything's very artisanal. All the food is artisanal that comes out of the Replomats.
Tilly is going to be taking selfies of her food. And like she'll go back to her quarters, and we'll see her vision board hanging up on the wall.
Okay, Tyler says the word spoofed at one point. He says like someone's
yeah.
I was like, dude, but in season
That's
one,
by the way, that's next episode. Just FYI.
Oh, sorry, my bad. He says owned. He said owned in the first season, so he's very well versed in our current lingo.
He is from Seattle. I lived in Seattle for 3 years, and I feel like it is a mecca of millennial culture, and in a good way, in a positive way. I say that with love, and so I do think that Tyler is representing the Pacific Northwest pretty accurately.
Well, on the original series, Gary Mitchell was talking to Kirk about remember when we were reading that long hair stuff or something like that? It's like long hair. No one has said that since the 60s.
So yeah, I mean, of course, naturally, a show is going to be a product of its time. I do think that Star Trek does a pretty good job of staying as timeless as possible, though. Overall,
some,
it does a good job.
Some Star Trek does it better than others. Like I think TNG and DS9 do a pretty good job. Voyager sometimes feels kind of 90s-ish. Like I remember there's one episode where I think like Tom Paris says some dumb joke, and then Harry Kilm's like lame, and then like right after that, Chakotay walks under the bridge, and he's like, "What's up?" And it's just like it felt so modern.
He actually says, "What's up?"
Yeah, it's the same episode where Harry Kilm says lame.
I can't wait to.
I would argue
I'm so excited about my Voyager rewatch.
I would argue that TNG feels 80s right into the 90s, but I mean, it's got those onesies and everything. So.
Yeah. The first couple seasons of TNG feel very 80s, but then like after, I would say like season 3 or 4 TNG onward, and then DS9. Other than like maybe a specific haircut here or there, you know, like LeVar Burton's high top that he's got rocking.
That one haircut from that one lady.
I got it.
Contact.
I got to bounce off this topic though, and give a shout out to Discovery because, as controversial as the redesigns is, where I think they win consistently is outside, of whatever you think of the uniforms, is the civilian clothes. Discovery so far has been very reasonable. I think there's nothing crazy dated or weird looking. It just all seems like very fitting. It might seem, I've heard the critique that it might be a little Game of Thronesy medieval, but this era of Star Trek is like the Middle Ages of Star Trek in a way. So
I hate civilian clothes on Star Trek, like TNG and Voyager and DS9. Anytime they have someone out of uniform, they look effing stupid. Like
I feel like
they look so nouveau chic.
I feel like in Voyager it's alright. I'm in season 4 of my rewatch of Voyager, and they have civilian clothing that aren't they're not too bad.
Like when they're wearing Hawaiian shirts on the holodeck, I guess
that's just corny, because that's a corny program. Everything concerning the hologram until we get to Captain Proton sucks.
I mean, like Jake Sisko, look at anything Jake Sisko has ever worn. It's terrible. Like no one will wear that in the future.
I'm offended by the Marseille, the French bar, the French pub that they have in Voyager. By the way,
that offends you?
Yeah, so much.
As a Frenchman, you're offended. Good.
Noted. It's not even as a Frenchman. It's just as someone that's lived in Marseille. It's like anyway. It looks nothing like anything that exists in Marseille.
That's how Americans think it looked, though. So
Americans that never went there.
Yeah, 5-week vacation. Quick side topic there. No, I'm sorry. I'm just very jealous. What is the defining regional dish of Marseille? Like Dijon has,
mustard,
steak, mustard, yeah, things like that. But what is are you looking it up? You don't know?
I'm looking it up. Right.
You should just know.
I thought you lived there.
Yeah, it's you just search your memories. Do we need the Telosians to probe you?
let's be real honest. I don't know if there's an actual dish, but they have special sauces and stuff that they do their own. So aioli, enchoyade, that kind of stuff. But I don't eat that because there's garlic in one of them, there's anchovies in the other. So I ain't too Marseille dishes. Yeah, well, I'm not too keen on French food anyway, so wine, That's not me.
Oh my god, I'm like a lover of those things. Okay, we'll talk about that offline.
I'm not nouveau chic.
No,
We should all
not.
compare our regional foods.
It's true that we should have a special Starfleet Boy food special. We'll have like a potluck or something, virtual potluck.
Like the Texas national dish is chili.
I thought it was barbecue.
No, that's chili.
Oh, nice.
Texas
Have you ever had Cincinnati chili?
I won't eat chili that's not from Texas because it's probably terrible.
Oh my god! There you go.
I love it.
What PJ? What is Newfoundland known for?
fish and chips, and that's it.
Oh, that's
Okay.
That's not exciting. It's just
Here's
anything.
bringing it.
Like
They
that,
still run it in-
Jig's dinner. Jig's dinner is the most popular Newfoundland food throughout the world. It's just
Ooh.
like
What
potatoes
is
and
a jig?
turnip and like lots of salt and just not good for you. Salt beef,
I make
salt pork.
I make a pretty mean shepherd's pie that I'd love to.
Yeah, that's
share
very
with you
common
guys
here.
sometime.
Lemon meringue pie is very popular.
Oh yeah, we eat that in
Bringing
the
it
South.
back. Ooh.
Lemon meringue.
Bring it back to Star Trek. What's the national dish of Vulcan?
Pomeek soup. Duh.
Duh, excellent. Well done. We get a mention of the Mutara sector. Burnham mentions to Pike in the opening that Spock kind of diverted to there, and I was really hoping we would see the Mutara sector. But
He's
why do you
gonna
think
die
Spock
there.
goes there? That's true. It's true.
And be
Bring the
rebirthed
future.
there.
That's true.
I
It's
love
Maybe
true.
that's where he. That's the frozen planet he goes to. I guess maybe.
Oh, be it. Nice.
I love all these references that they do, but I can't help feel like they're making the universe so much smaller, because every the corny thing with every Star Trek movie is that we're the only ship in the sector, or like we're the only ship close enough, and it does make you feel like space is friggin' huge. But then I don't know. It would seem like Spock going to the Mutara sector or going through it it makes it feel less far away or less.
But it's the prequel show, so things should be kind of closer together. And then, like,
they're
in the
not
later-
venturing out they're not venturing too far out of the immediate area, which is kind of a little interesting. It's like,
They
I
set
mean, this
course
is
to
something
tell us
critique.
in a
I would say
shuttle.
that a critique of Star Trek in general, and maybe all space shows, is that like sometimes when it's convenient, things are really great distances away, and then sometimes they're like a hop, skip, and a jump away. And like even but I think that's like a common thing. Like even
I think
when we
it's
watch
specific to Star Trek.
shows like
The Expanse
What's
doesn't
that?
have, it's specific to Star Trek. The Expanse doesn't have that problem.
well, they're only dealing with our solar system so
The
far.
Expanse has a
but-
different problem where the main ship seems to be like where it needs to be at every point, and everyone seems to meet up with it for some reason. But
Wow.
yeah, no, I feel like this is a Star Trek issue.
I thought The Expanse was perfect. I thought you like hyped that up as like the greatest show ever made.
I'm sorry, I retract what I said, and nothing is wrong with The Expanse. People are exactly where they need to be, because that's how you make a great show.
But yeah, they
like
do that in Star Trek where things aren't, where distance seems kind of weird. Where sometimes they'll say we're the only ship in the sector and it's at Earth, and it's just like there should be tons of ships at Earth. You're in like the very center of the Federation.
It's true. Like case in point, Star Trek 2009. There's like no defense system. There's
Star
like no
Trek
armada.
Generations.
Oh yeah, Star Trek Generations.
Enterprise B.
Discovery Season 1.
The Star Trek the motion picture. You know the last episode of Voyager when the Borg are coming to Earth because the slipstream is going to open up like in front of Earth, and they have like that whole armada formed to like protect Earth. It's like where have all those ships been all these years?
They've been waiting for another Dominion attack, you know, at Starbase whatever with Cisco. Because there's so many ships in Deep Space Nine in those Dominion wars.
When I was a kid, we used to play. My friend Julio and I created this huge like map of what we speculated at the time, based on like the Star Trek role-playing game and information available at that time, of what the galaxy was like, and we would actually would deploy ships in a way that was sensible. Like it's like not hard to do. Like I feel like this is like something that Starfleet maybe needs like Julio and Sohail.
The writers' room needs a map on the wall. They place all of their ships and at any given moment, and then they write depending on that, right?
They might be doing that for the Picard show, because we did see that Kirsten Beyer was drawing up a map of the galaxy when they started writing.
That didn't really look a map of the galaxy, but I mean, it looked like a bunch of squiggly lines on a grid. But
we should have an interactive Star Trek map by now on StarTrek.com or something. I feel
that would be cool.
I agree.
It seems that
actually, what would be cool is.
Hello?
Go ahead, PJ.
It seems
go ahead.
that in this new Picard show, the Borg may be pretty prevalent in a certain part of the galaxy, and that they're not defeated yet, and they're still like a lingering threat. And that's I think I saw in that drawing you're talking about. I think I saw like a whole section where it's like Borg.
Yeah, she had like the Delta Quadrant labeled Borg.
Yeah, like. So they're not gone. They're still around. Like they're gonna like attack at any moment. I think that's what the Picard show is going to be about. Picard's going to be off doing his Indiana Jones adventures, or like tending to like the vineyard, and they're going to call him back. They're going to call him back into service, like that guy from Rambo. He's like, "You got to come back." He's like, "No, that life. I'm done with that life, man." He's like, "No, you've got to." And then. Like Riker or somebody he loves gets killed, like Worf gets killed or something.
Oh no,
and he's
please,
like, I've got to go back. I've got to defeat these damn Borg.
I think that when they get back to the Delta Quadrant, they're going to find out that the Borg have been wiped out because Neelix and the Talaxians have killed all the Borg.
Oh, really?
I have a question.
To be honest, the map might be false because they still have Dominion written in the. Is the Dominion still alive and well?
Yeah, they weren't completely wiped out.
They just had like a treaty that they would stay out of the Alpha Quadrant.
But aren't the founders doing their own shit? Anyway, sorry.
Come on, Sean. Let's get.
Odo went to the changeling world and like joined the Great Lake, and he said, "We're just gonna stay here and learn to not be assholes."
Okay, good luck
basically.
with that.
And constantly have some kind of strange liquid sex.
Except for the lady, the leader of the founders, like she's in like a Federation prison somewhere. Like they keep her as a prisoner.
Doesn't she dies? Anyways, no, that's not
back to the expense. The topic at hand.
So I have a question. So the remnant of that was this like time rift. Is that something that's been happening like everywhere? Like does everywhere that the Angel visits create like this big time anomaly, or was that something that do you think
when Admiral Cornwell investigated the anomaly at the first site where the Hiawatha was, they detected all the tachyons and the time rifts and all this shit.
Gotcha.
And this is pretty much the same thing that Discovery is now in charge of investigating. But like, shouldn't they have some background information from Admiral Cornwell on what this is? They seem to be like not really knowing exactly how to deal with it. It's like they have no information on it prior to this event when they should.
I don't think there was a time rift when Cornwell investigated, though. I think she talks about tachyons because there's like like there's remnant traces of time travel.
The aftermath of one or something, maybe.
Yeah, it was leaving behind residual tachyons, and they weren't sure if it was time travel. They thought it could be, but they also thought it could be cloaking devices or transporter signatures. Or
that's right. Now I remember. You're right.
But they did hint that it is likely time travel.
I thought that the episode did a great job of like showing time dilation and basically a time tornado or hurricane or whatever it was.
The time tsunami.
One of my favorite scenes was actually when Tilly notices the captain, the whole scene repeating, like where the captain says the chair outranks the badge or whatever. She's like, "What the frick?" And I just love the way that was done visually. I thought that was a high point. I think one of you guys pointed out though that like why wasn't Tyler aware? Why didn't he see the echo or the time ghost?
Yeah,
We call it time.
Me, yeah.
A time ghost. Oh, that was you.
I got
the time ghost in the other scene, and I think I'm willing to buy that it was so like distracting and loud in that shuttle that like maybe Pike is the only one that noticed.
That's what Nick said.
We also don't know where the microphone is that's picking up the sound of that. So maybe only if you're like super close to the illusion of the future, you would hear it.
It is a phaser fire though, and like it's a pretty loud moment. You would think that Tyler would at least turn around, going, "What the hell's going on?" But Nick pointed out that he was very occupied. I don't know.
It could also be the heart of what, because that happened while they were in the, not the heart of it, but they were like deep in the time rift. It could be that like you could have isolations that are discrete, like whereas like maybe one effect only affects Pike for a moment, and Tyler isn't even aware, like it's happening for Tyler because he's like just slightly in another time, you know, junction or whatever. So that could be like a more, I guess, scientific explanation of it, because that I think Stamets later. Go ahead.
And the look Pike gives when he sees the thing is like, am I hallucinating? Like, what the frig? It's almost like he's not even sure that he's seeing what he's seeing. It's not even that clear. And it's funny how you don't see the octopus tentacle around Tyler's neck in the it's just vague enough so you don't really you don't know exactly what's going on.
Right. It did fool me because but then when the scene occurred, I was like, aha.
I love that idea though of just the writing of that, where you set up this mystery of like what is going to happen to make Pike shoot at Tyler, and then the fact that like he sees it but he's not going to say anything because he can't trust this Section 31 Klingon, basically.
Classic. That's so Raven.
Or it reminds me of like
you guys remember that?
I don't know what that means.
You don't.
I'm in my mid-30s. I have never seen that.
Oh my god! It was this corny Disney show where this chick had these visions from the future, but she would only see like half visions. For example, she would see someone being shot at from the front or whatever, and then you'd figure out later on in the episode that it was like a fake gun or something. So her visions were always kind of false. They were always kind of wrong.
Oh, that's so Raven.
Where's Data when you need him? Because Data, as we saw in the episode in TNG with the time dilations occurring, was the only one that immune to it because he was operating in a way that prevented the effects from happening. So I kind of like that, like the time dilation was like disorienting them and they had no idea. PJ, you had a theory about Pike and Tyler that I think.
Are we going to talk about Pyler?
Pyler. Talking about shipping Pyler. I love Pyler. That's a great.
I really like the relationship in like this episode and the next one, because they're like an old married couple. They're like Archie Bunker and Edith.
Which one is the racist one then?
Clearly it's Tyler. No, I don't know.
I would say Pike, considering Pike is also a sexist as established in The Cage.
Like it's a classic odd couple situation, right?
Yeah, totally. I did like that. I did.
Yeah,
because of you. I took note of the time when Pike says we might be stuck in here for all eternity together, and I was like, oh, so he's succumbing to like the idea that like he might have to like be intimate with Tyler.
Or when they almost hold hands when they reach out and touch the dial and like their fingers touch.
One of the critiques I had personally last season for Star Trek Discovery is that I thought they could do more with the opening credit sequences, like in terms of modifying them and, you know, to kind of give us clues or whatever. And while it's still not exactly what I would like, I did like that the time traveler Red Angel was now featured in this episode in the opening credits, and I took note of that.
I'm still not digging the opening credits on Discovery, but they're better than Enterprise. I actually think
like most
been a long
openings on any
time.
TV show.
I think Voyager had the best opening credits. Just the visuals of the ship flying by a star and over
they're beautiful. It's true.
Music.
Yeah,
the scores from Deep
just
Space Nine and Voyager are the best, I find.
Yeah,
Really,
100%. Jerry Goldsmith,
Voyager, I
right?
think.
Very cool. So the forests of Vulcan, I wanted to talk that a little bit. I know that in the animated series, you do see like these kind of like trees and stuff like that. But I don't recall anything about like trees growing. Most of the scenes we've seen previously of Vulcan have been like mostly desert type scenes, but when you look at Vulcan from like space, there are huge oceans, and so it's not infeasible that the city that we see here is those oceans, and that's why you have like rain and things like that.
Oh, go ahead, Father.
They also have freaking oxygen on the planet, so there's got to be some vegetation. There's some plant life.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Maybe Vulcan is predominantly desert, but there would be tropical places. There would be, you know, cold places. I think a lot of planets that are M-class planets basically operate much like Earth, and they have, like, perhaps like Earth to some cultures is way too cold. It's like, God.
Right.
It's just the weather sucks.
Yeah, the Cardassians need like warmer temperatures than us, from what I recall, and they need like less light.
Yeah.
I still like Forge, which in the next episode Spock mentions the forests of the Forge as being like barren and like being just like, you know, a desert. But I also appreciated a little cross discussion into the next episode that the trees were barren. They didn't have leaves on them, so it implied that this area was like bereft of life. But it also seemed like it was too close to their house. So I don't know. It's a little weird. Anyways,
everything.
Mar, do we ever get that?
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, finish.
All of the visuals, like all of the Vulcan visuals, to me were outstanding. I loved like the cityscape. I loved just that the shuttle landing next to the house. I loved it all.
Yeah,
I like the maglev tracks and stuff.
I think like if this was a modern Star Trek movie, that it's what we would have gotten. It just the shots probably would have been like a little bit longer. They would have gone on a little longer. But I mean, like it was that cinematic level of quality. I was very impressed by it.
And on that note, the time riff was beautiful too. Like especially when it had these like explosions and tsunamis and just like the whole sequence. It just felt like for a show with such a limited production period, it just felt really well done considering everything. You know,
there's a lot of great direction in this episode. Marta Cunningham is she should. I'm assuming it's a she.
She is married to James Frayne. She is the real life wife.
Oh, nice.
She knows what she's doing in terms of visuals, because like when you see the visuals in Vulcan, there are a lot of still shots. There's still camera movement and like floaty angles and a little bit of light flare here and there, but she uses it perfectly. Like every time you see the light flare or the way the camera moves, it's all appropriate to what you're seeing. And you get the episode before that, which is like the camera's all over the place and there's lens flares all over the place. And then, you know, episode 8, which we're going to talk about later, that has the same problem. Like there's a smoke machine on 24/7 in the background. Jonathan Frakes and this director for this episode are my two favorite directors so far.
Mm. She brought out the best Sarek that James Frayne has given until now, I reckon.
Yeah, she's like, you better do it, husband.
Yeah.
You better do a good job.
Well,
Try
I know
again.
that. I know
Try
that
again,
James,
husband.
I know that James Frayne originally
Take 42.
take 47.
There we go.
I know that James Frayne originally said he wanted to like do his own take on Sarek and what have you, and maybe no one wanted to say, hey, you can't do that. Just do Sarek properly. But maybe his wife was able to say that, like, hey, look, calm down. All right, this ain't your own take. Just do Sarek.
Yeah, I like that whole family dynamic.
Yeah,
A wife could do that.
It was really well played out here.
Who's the actress who plays Amanda? Does anyone know her name?
I forget her name.
It's just weird that Marta.
I don't have it memorized, but I've looked it up.
Let me search. I will find her name.
Well, y'all are looking that up. Just it's weird that Marta Cunningham would direct her to argue with her husband.
Mia Kirshner.
Mia Kirshner, thank you.
How old is she, by the way?
43.
She kind of looks like shit. What's her name? Lois Lane from.
Yes.
God. Man of Steel.
Yes.
What's her name? God damn.
Amy Adams.
Amy Adams.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ain't no one good enough to look like Amy Adams.
Wow. We just crossed the line there for check on the.
Yeah, no way.
Terry Hatcher was the best looking Lois Lane in the 90s on Lois and Clark.
Lore experts, Takmar, is that mentioned before this episode?
That was a new thing, I believe, unless it appeared in like a book or something. It was never in any of the shows, though.
I think that's a word they must have, or a term they must have made up for Spock, because I don't think any Vulcan has had dyslexia.
No, Tokmar. Well, that too, but Tokmar was the.
What am I thinking?
Tokmar. No, you're right. There was another had, but like Tokmar was the was what Sarek was meditating, like that state he was in, trying to reach out to Spock, and Amanda.
Yeah, that was never mentioned before. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I'm thinking the other thing is just learning disabilities. Yeah.
And I think we get introduced to the Kotrick arc for the first time in Star Trek 2009 too, because I don't recall it ever being mentioned before. Is that correct as well, or?
Yeah,
Katra was first mentioned in the original series.
No, but the Kotrick arc, like this, like place, it seemed like very similar to what this environment was, where Spock was being hidden.
They don't say that.
I felt like that was.
They
don't say it. No,
they call it a crypt, but they talk about the Katra stones.
Right.
And Vulcans.
So I wondered if those. Yeah, those stones are kind of slightly psychic or something, and they have the knowledge of Vulcans in them or something like that.
In Enterprise, we see Vulcans use stones for weird things, like to carry the Katra of Surak, and also like to have like all the teachings and the book of Surak or whatever they called it. And then in Next Generation and Gambit, they had like that mystical stone that the space pirates were after. That.
Oh, I totally forgot about that episode. Wow, yeah.
They're all about logic, but they have all this spiritual shit going on.
I was thinking the same thing.
Fucking Vulcans,
but they are they do well. The thing is that I think the thing that people forget is that Vulcans look at logic as the form of spirituality. They find they express their spirituality through logic, which is interesting. It is a nice, interesting twist.
I couldn't live there. Too many
that.
Vulcans.
You can't deal.
Can't deal with it.
We're nearly out of time on our time limit that we've set for this discussion. I think we're doing a really good job. So I want to like breeze through some of these questions that I had, but then I'd like to open it up to you guys. But my next note was on Ethan Peck. What did you guys think? Obviously, we get more Spocky later on, but what did you think of like our first look at Spock, at the new portrayal by Ethan Peck?
He's not really a character in this episode. He's a plot device. I would almost say he's a prop that Sonequa Martin Green has to carry around.
He's a cardboard cutout of Spock.
Basically, he's just mumbling incoherent stuff. It's still it's not really a character until we get to the next episode.
I do think, though, if one of the notes I wrote about his performance is that, like, that first scene, we see him and they do a close up of his lips, and he's like, "Oh," like he kind of does this like really strained kind of voice, right? And it did remind me of Leonard Nimoy.
What does it sound like? Can you do that again?
Like,
yeah, if I heard that, I would totally
logic. Logic.
That sounds like Ethan Peck Spock.
Pain. So much pain.
The woman.
Pain. The woman. The woman. Cry. Hurt. Burnham. Bitch. No, okay, sorry.
Oh God.
She's awful to little Spock. It hurt my feelings.
That's the next episode.
That's the next episode. Come on.
I know. But he's timey-wimey here. Okay, so let's see what else.
No mention of Cyborg. Oh, no one cares about Cyborg.
No mention of Cyborg. But I thought there was a little interesting thing when he's like, but I wouldn't have married a human if I didn't like respect humans, and she kind of like raises her eyebrow, and I think it would have been like, well, what about that Vulcan princess you used to be married to? Didn't work out really well, did it?
What about that Vulcan whore?
Do we know if Cyborg's parents were ever married?
Oh
my God.
I don't think we even consider Cyborg canon anymore.
There's a prequel to Discovery.
Sarek was living in like the capital city. He fooled around with the princess, but then he had to run away or something.
He was
I loved the additional dimension of Spock having learning differences as a child. It makes sense to me, especially because of like, who knows what could happen when you mix like, two different species, even if they're compatible sexually and can reproduce. It still begs the question of what is going to happen. What is the child going to be like? I also like that they finally brought the Alice in Wonderland references to episode and kind of like made it and it made sense. Like Alice in Wonderland would be, I think, a great way to deal with illogical things, and it's a very like, it is an absurd, the whole idea of the novels are, is to be absurd, and so I like that a lot.
So far Discovery is doing a good job at tying in all of these loose ends or just random plot like devices that they use in season 1. Like I didn't understand the point of all of those references in the first season. Apart from that corny shore leave episode from the original series, right? That's the only thing I could get
interesting tie-ins, like that. It's just like nice to see these little connections and threads that come up. Let's talk. Last thing, I guess, is just what did you think of the Burnham Spock relationship? Like, do you buy it more now? Like, is it something? Do you like see how Burnham fits in? Like, because I know there were a lot of objections from both fans of the show and non-fans about like where Burnham just doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't, all that kind of stuff.
I buy it more after what happens in the next episode.
Right. Of course.
Do you? It sounds like you're wanting to wrap up. Do you want to mention anything about Section 31 in this episode?
Yeah. Actually, so what I wrote about Section 31 is just that they did mention the only thing that stood out to me really for that was Leland is responsible for the death of Burnham's parents.
Yeah, that's kind of a big bombshell, but I don't know if that was really necessary. I kind of want to see what the secret is when it's fully revealed before I can lay judgment down on that.
I feel like he's being set up. He's the villain of this season. The Red Angel is the mystery, but Leland is the villain. And by the end of the season, he'll be dead or put in prison or something. And because he's very shady or whatever.
Are they going to have a battle?
That's when Georgiou will take control of Section 31. It's like she'll be the leader of Section 31. And they'll move on from there. That's how I feel they're going to wrap this up.
I have a theory about Leland that he's like what Tyler Volk is. He's a converted Klingon, and that he was actually one of the Klingons that killed her parents. He was like the leader.
He was one of the ones that like murdered her dad and then raped her mom to death. And then
the rape is implied.
Table.
They don't say that straight out.
Hot damn!
That's a pretty strong.
And you know what's disturbing about the Klingons having two appendages is that when you imagine something like that, it makes it all that much more worse.
Yeah,
just to think about. It's like,
Burnham is hiding it. Burnham is hiding in the closet as a little kid, listening to her mom.
Oh no, that's horrible. I don't even want to hear that story. When she told that story in episode 15, I actually wanted to throw up. Because I'm like, they just illustrated that they have two things, and then she implies rape onto her mother.
No, how does B'Elanna's internal organs work? Does B'Elanna have like double things?
Oh,
Maybe
God.
A little differently. I mean, we could really, guys, we're trying to keep it within a time frame here, and I feel like that's going deep. That's deep.
The conversation getting shut down, as it probably should.
Yes, as it should. We could do this on Drunk Space Nine.
On that note,
I want to end the main discussion first by seeing if you guys had any notes or questions that I didn't address that we wanted to talk about.
I still have problems with the fact that there's no chief engineer, no medical officer. Reno is absent. I feel like they have serious scientific problems. They have serious engineering problems in this episode on the Discovery regarding the time rift. That they could have used like a chief medical officer. They could have used a chief engineer to help them with this, but they just don't exist.
The shows really, I feel like the shows are. I mean, this is another Star Trek problem, isn't it? Because like we would get episodes where you think like, well, a certain character should have been like at least just like a quick whatever. But does that mean, do you think that means that they're not, do you think, I don't know, this might be a fact that's known. Is the season finished being written before the whole thing is produced, or are they still writing episodes as they're going along? Do you guys happen to know that? Because it is indicative of that.
Kurtzman stated that this season was backwards engineered, that they first came up with the end and then deconstructed it somehow, or de-evolved it to a point where they would, I don't know. All I know is that they backward engineered it so that this Red Angel thing is definitely going to have a resolution. Everything's going to be explained. How good or bad that explanation is going to be is yet to be seen.
I think that there's no way, like, I mean, these episodes are getting denser and denser, and I feel like there's really no way you can include all of the characters, even though I do agree with you 100% that, like, yeah, there should have been like just one scene from engineering saying like the strains on our core are full because of, you know, and again, we still don't know who the, you know, it's like something like that.
Yeah, there's never any interaction with the chief engineer, which is such a common thing in Trek, and now it's completely absent. And
they might set that up in season 3, though. We might go into season 3 with a CMO and a chief engineer.
Chief engineer gets killed, and then Jet Reno gets promoted.
Yeah,
but I feel like they should
not.
No, she's not, because apparently I thought she was the chief medical officer, but her ranking is lower than Culber's, so it wouldn't make any sense.
There is a doctor that we see in the season 1 episode Magics to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad, who he's in the shuttle bay when they bring on the Gormagander.
Okay.
And then like Harry Mudd shot him, but
oh god. All right.
That might be one of the timelines that like didn't actually happen. So I think he might be the chief medical officer, but I'm pretty sure we only see him the one time.
I feel like they should really have, like, even if they don't want to focus on these characters and they don't want to show them too much, I feel like they really should have them in like staff meetings with Pike or something. Just a bunch of people say that these are the chief, like these are the senior officers from the ship. Have them interact with Pike, but then when Burnham comes in, if you want to film Burnham interacting with Pike, then he dismisses them or something. That's fine. Yeah. But I feel like they should be there.
It doesn't bother me too much, but I agree it should be in there at some point. But if enough people keep bitching about it, they'll probably include it.
Apparently that's what happens.
So
I'm fine with making Star Trek the show different for the audience, but I feel like in universe, the hierarchy or the way the inner workings of a ship needs to remain consistent.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you.
I just want to say one thing about Ethan Peck. Even in this episode where he's just like mumbling and stuff in the background, he's doing a pretty good job. He's got that voice too, right? Like it's not hard to imagine him as the character. So
on the Well podcast, which is the podcast that Anson Mount hosts with his friends Brendan Hedgens, I think is his last name. There's a really great interview with Ethan Peck, and he goes through his process and how he came to how he got the role, and then his process of becoming Spock, and it's really fascinating to listen to. So
yeah, he got the role by saying that he's like, Ethan Peck's my granddaddy, hire me. No, I'm kidding. He's good though.
Yes.
He really is a good actor.
He's great.
Atticus Finch.
What? Yeah, Gregory Peck. That's right. Nice. All right, guys. Ratings time. I'll go first, as is tradition, because Sean doesn't trust my ratings.
You say this. You say this, but it was the doctor that didn't trust your ratings originally.
I know, but you just get that to wear that mantle, because you do look at me suspiciously when I give my ratings. I
disagree with your ratings. That's very different.
I give this one a 9.5. I did think there were a few. I did think that there were a few little minor kind of plot holes and stuff like that. But I'm gonna be Gary. I'm gonna be the guy who gives it the high rating in this episode. So go on next. Thank you. Next.
Fathery.
I don't know, because I've been thinking about the more recent episode a lot lately, so I'm trying to think back to my initial reaction to this one. I liked it, but it wasn't one of my favorites of the seasons. I would probably give it either a 7 or maybe a little lower than that. Maybe a 6.5. I'll be generous and give it a 7. Yeah. A solid 7.
Thank you. It helps with the average. Thank you.
You and your average.
I will give this episode my highest Star Trek Discovery rating. There's only like 2 other episodes I give this rating to. And it's a 7.5.
Oh god.
Ooh.
That's an achievement. If there's ever an episode of Discovery that's an 8, that's a real win.
That's amazing.
Okay, I'm amazed at this, but my rating is 6.5, so I give the lowest.
All right. So I think it's fair to say we can average it out at a 7, just like a Starfleet Boy rough estimate here, right? So that's good.
Every time we get together, it's a 7.
It would be exactly a 7 between the 3 of us, but then you kind of skew it up too high with your 9.5.
I know, but I faired it out. I got fair, right? So it's like, okay.
So like the general consensus would be a 7.
And yeah, I recused myself because I'm so absurd. I can't help it.
the fanboy in you.
I can't help it. I have to say, like, I know I'm probably going on emotion, and it's like what Sean called it, the hype or whatever. So it would be interesting to revisit this at the end of the season and see how I feel the season ends. But like, I'm really loving the ride. Like, I just feel like overall, and I guess it's because season 1 like made me so like like I was just, but this is even like I've said this before, but I feel like this is even enhancing season 1 for me with these like little tie-ins to seson 1 and stuff.
That is very true. So this is making season 1 better.
It is making season 1 better and more watchable in general. All right, gentlemen, I think we did pretty good. We tried to stay minutes and we made it over. So woo, huzzah.
Was this the shortest Starfleet Boy ever?
No, we've done 30 minutes and we can do it again. I believe we can do it again. I mean, like it can happen. It's harder with 4 people, but I think we can do it. So time crunch typically, but today we're doing 2 back-to-back, so we have less time than we normally do. So all right, gentlemen, we'll see you in just a few minutes. And then audience, you're gonna get I don't know if it's a treat or a dread, but you'll get 2 episodes of Starfleet Boy back-to-back.
A double feature.
A double feature. So live long and prosper, and we'll see you next time.